One guy that I don't think is getting talked about enough is Kirk Cousins, and he's at a weird point in his NFL career. 35 years old, coming off of a season-ending torn Achilles tendon, and he's about to be a free agent. Kirk has had a pretty mediocre run with the Minnesota Vikings since signing an, at the time, record-breaking $84 million contract back in 2018. 23,000 passing yards, 171 touchdowns, 55 interceptions, leading the Vikings to an overall 50-37-1 record and 3 playoff appearances. Cousins has also had some personal accolades, being named to the Pro Bowl 3 different times. It's not like Cousins has been bad by any means, he's just not been anything special, and it seems likely that the Vikings are done with Kirk Cousins. They want to move in a younger, more long-term option. Cousins has made it very clear he wants to stay in Minnesota. He's willing to take a massive pay cut to do so. But let's just say the Vikings are just ready for a fresh start. They're ready to give a new signal caller for Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So what would be next for Kirk Cousins? Well, a lot of analysts like to think that Cousins will be headed to Atlanta to fix their quarterback situation, because it's obvious Desmond Ridder is not the man. He is not the guy that needs to lead the Falcons to success. And the Falcons are in a weird spot because it's like, I don't know how talented this team actually is. I mean, the defense is pretty solid, but the offense is in shambles. But they have gone with offense the past 3 drafts, with drafting Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. So maybe they're just one quarterback away, but they're in a really weird spot in this year's draft because they're drafting 8th, which is early, like it's high. But that means that Drake May, Caleb Williams, and Jaden Daniels, they're going to be off the board. Like, they're going top 5, all 3 of them. And, like, Bo Nix might be an option, but there's been many questions about his NFL readiness, and Michael Penix, but even with him, there's an injury concern, which is what you're going to have with Kirk Cousins. And even if either of these guys were selected by Atlanta, who's to say that Kirk Cousins wouldn't be the perfect veteran to develop these guys? Like, maybe he starts for a year or 2, or maybe he's just the veteran backup like what Andy Dalton has been in Carolina. I mean, Captain Kirk is a cool dude that you want in your locker room. So I have a feeling that he's a great mentor who would gracefully take the role of like the old guy in the locker room to develop the young quarterback of the future. I just really could see that. But if Kirk Cousins came back how he's expected to by the media and he just plays really great, I mean, he was really having a great year before getting hurt in Minnesota. So if he came back and he was just fantastic, he could lead Atlanta with new head coach Raheem Morris to some success that we haven't seen since the Matt Ryan era. Another option who's like one piece away from competing in the NFL playoffs is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And think about it. They made it to the wild card with Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett as the team's 2 starting quarterbacks. I mean, I think it's time to move on from Kenny Pickett. He's not good. It's time to move on from Mason Rudolph. It's time to get a guy that can actually lead you to some playoff success. And I think in the right system, Kirk Cousins can do that. I think he would be great for Mike Tomlin. He would be great for new offensive coordinator Arthur Smith for the right price. And if, and this is a big if, the Steelers are able to clear the cap room available, because right now they are not in a good money situation at all. They are like $5 or $6 million over the cap. So I think if they can get Kirk on a really cheap deal, yeah, this is the move for Pittsburgh. The wide receiver room is pretty weak, which would make this destination less desirable for Cousins as other ones I have on this list. But knowing Mike Tomlin and knowing his genius, he could fix that problem in a year or 2. The Denver Broncos are a team that I've seen that I think I like the idea of Kirk Cousins suiting up for, because like Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, I mean, it's a pretty solid receiving core, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I don't know how I like Sean Payton in the modern NFL. I think his days are kind of over. It's clear Russell Wilson's best days are behind him. However, the idea of getting Kirk Cousins, I just don't think that's going to be Denver or Sean Payton's number 1 choice. I think they're probably going to hit a full reset and snag a younger option instead of a guy who literally is the same age as Russell Wilson. I mean, the team that I believe would be the best fit other than Kirk Cousins staying with the Vikings and would give Cousins a great wide receiver 1 that he's used to. Remember, he's been playing with Justin Jefferson for a few years now, and now he's got Jordan Addison, who's a great wide receiver too. Well, I believe the Las Vegas Raiders are the perfect destination for Kirk Cousins post-Minnesota. I mean, how would you like a Kirk Cousins and Devontae Adams led offense? Would it do well? Well, I can give you a hint. It would be much better than a Derek Carr-Devontae Adams duo. Las Vegas has one of the hottest coaches in the league right now with Antonio Pierce shocking everybody, turning this Raiders team around from the dumpster fire that Josh McDaniels had left them in to now this team where everybody's kind of like, oh, they're really not as bad as we once thought. They finished 8-9, and Aiden O'Connell did solid for a QB that was drafted 135th who had to fill in for Jimmy Garoppolo because he got hurt. But, I don't think he's leading this team to true playoff success yet. I don't think he's there at this point. Kirk Cousins could do that. Again, price is going to be a big thing, as well as Antonio Pierce's preference, but the Raiders can afford Kirk Cousins. They have the cap space. You just don't want to spend your entire budget on 35-year-old Kirk Cousins. You just don't. Maybe Antonio Pierce wants to develop O'Connell, and that's fine and understandable. If he just wants to start him and Cousins doesn't want to be a backup, he doesn't want to do that, that's fine. But I'm telling you, I think Kirk Cousins is way more valuable than people are giving him credit for. And on the Raiders, I think Cousins could have some great success, make the Raiders low-key contenders, kind of those dark horse, because it's a very physical, very gritty group anyway. I think Kirk Cousins would fit right in. I think he's got some more in the tank. I really do. And I think he'd be able to prove that in Las Vegas. Of course, this is all speculation. For all I know, the Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins could be printing up a new deal that could get inked tomorrow. But if Captain Kirk ends up on the free agent market, I believe he's going to be a very sought-after QB because he definitely has some value.